Welcome to Vlog Thursday, number 422. How's everybody doing today? I guess I should thank the Domots as our sponsor. I actually didn't have that in the list. Maybe I did, but I'll thank them anyways. But whether or not it's a specific one, but they're sponsor for the month of February here of 2025. So thanks for them as sponsors. Dudes, I've been trying to align with sponsors that some of you might be interested in. It seemed like nice. There's an interview you can check out on a Business Technicalities channel. I believe that's all posted there. I should have checked. Anyways, Matt will fill in descriptions or bounce in here and take care of all that stuff. But there are fun things to talk about today. And I know there's one that Cody will be excited. Is the really simple one here is the fact that, yes, I swapped out my PfSense to a UniFi because I wanted to dive deeper into the rules, set up the network, set up my lab with it, and it's working. So there's that. I'm curious. I can't really say for sure if it works better or worse in terms of speed. The speed tests seem to be about the same. So I really had no issues. Now, there were some challenges, definitely doing the migration. And this is just me doing talking head. I'll do a more in-depth one because I have a video coming up and I just posted this over on, where did it go? I got to bring this over here so I can share it. I've been doing some more production testing with it. That's actually after working with my friend and doing some production testing. I decided to dive a little bit deeper into it, but the production testing is, we've moved already. It's only been up for a few days, but it's 73 terabytes worth of data we've already pushed through here. So it is a lot of data. Matter of fact, the Twitter post, why is YouTube harder to read than Twitter? Anyways, there we go. We'll share this tab instead. We'll zoom in. But I had my friend grab a screenshot of it. So 6 days, 73 terabytes of data have already passed through. This is like a production network. And they have a 10 gig pipe. And yeah, it's impressive. So I'm like, it's definitely working quite well. So I'm impressed with it. That's theirs. Of course, I don't have 73 terabytes going through mine. But yeah. And I completely get it. UniFi is not open source, and we're down to a lack of firewalls anymore available that are open source. That's, I've got a bunch of notes, and I just don't know how. I gotta put it together as a video. 1 second. I realize my lights are too bright. There we go. It's kind of. I had my overhead lights on really bright. But I thought about doing this as a video. I just got to figure out to put a good narrative to it. I've discussed open source firewalls as a long time open source firewall lover. The fact that they're just all dying and there's a lack of them, that it's become a real issue. And I don't really have an answer to it because besides OpenWRT, there's very few firewall projects left. And OpenWRT is neat, but I mean, it's not that robust. It might be good enough for some basic home user usage. I've not used it. I've only looked at it a little bit. It doesn't feel near as complete as some of the other ones. And obviously PfSense Plus is technically open source with closed source components. They don't really sell a source code to it. In the CE version of PfSense, they're just maintaining it at this point is how I feel. If you want a lot more features, you have to look at some of the other firewalls, and it's a shame, but it's also, there's a lot of problems with the way the communities are around it. The number of people that just get angry about any feature not being there. I like a lot listening to the open source security podcast, and one of the things they talked about was just how much do developers, and they as developers, deal with the anger that people have when you don't get the pushes and commits in there, and all these big companies kind of taking from open source, never really wanting to give back to it, and all the projects kind of fade away. And Firewall can be a pretty complicated, big project, and just not a lot of it out there. It's a hard decision. I mean, I always lean towards open source first. I love all the open source that is available, but boy, I feel like in that particular segment around firewalls, there's just not a lot out there anymore. Not like there used to be. It is what it is. I don't have a solution to that problem. But it does bring me back to the Ubiquity stuff, is where I ended up landing. I use so much of their switching and Wi-Fi. I have been talking to their engineers. I've been talking with people at Ubiquity and watching the progress, and also making suggestions. And they've been listening to the community. And that's where the firewall went from it kind of sucks to it sucks less to, hey, look, this is usable. And version 9 is what really hit me as a much more usable firewall from them. And I said, if it had these features, I would really give it a try. I'm honest to my word on that. And that's, the firewall is finally there, I kind of feel. Here is, I'll bring up my network. I do like the display of things. We'll put the animation here. I'm live streaming, so actually there's a few things that are pulling some data. This is obviously the overly expanded view. There's Tom's desktop. There's me streaming. I love the animations. Do kind of make it nice. Yeah, and this is where a lot of the problem is right here. All great. The UniFi firewall is good now. It's sad that open source firewalls are dying. Sadly, I'm no coder, have very little money, so I can't really contribute to them all. And that's my problem. There's not enough people that are good at coding firewalls. And I think there's just maybe market pressures, dynamics changing, where people just have to work a lot more for things today. So it kind of, there's less people doing some of the open source. I don't know. Definitely a challenge. It's kind of moving on its own here. Probably from all the things moving around on it. Kind of neat to see this, though. Where's the traffic going? All the different things. All the Chromecasts. Little artifacts here. Oh, there we go. Zooming in and out makes the artifacts go away. We can also just show the switching. So it looks a lot better. This is the one thing that UniFi changed that made me really happy, though, was the way they do the firewall rules is much easier to figure out now. So there's been a few people done videos on them. I'm going to do some videos on them as well. But the firewall rules have gotten so much easier. That is a big piece of it. Okay, good question right here. What are your thoughts on LXC containers? I see the next version of TrueNAS will have that as an option instead of full VMs. I don't really have much of an opinion on them. I use some Docker stuff, and that is, I just haven't spent much time with LXC containers, so I don't really have any opinion on them. Have you seen router Thomas Zaman here on YouTube? Thomas Zaman? Never heard of it. Oh, okay, I see. He's another. Isn't he doing? Okay, I see. I've seen his video pop up. I knew the name was familiar as it popped up in my feed. for people wondering. So yeah, building some type of open source router. I don't know much about it. Is he using Vios with it? I don't know. I haven't really had time to look into it. So it looks interesting. I'll give you that. Firewalls are simple, I feel. What we want now are UTM systems with tons of features, updates, and maintenance, which costs money to make and maintain. Yeah, it's actually not just the firewall. If you just say, I want something that routes traffic and blocks, and NAT is, can be a pretty good stopper for getting things in. Like, we're not going to open any ports. We just want to route traffic, not let anything in and let traffic out and throw a DHCP server on there. That's fine. That's easy. And it's all the extra that is a lot harder. That is where it gets a lot tricky. I'm currently using a UniFi Dream machine. Hold on, what is the model on this one? UDM Pro Max. So UDM Pro Max is the one I switched to. You just want UniFi to get to the point where specific features are available. IPFix, BGP without importing, and FRR, just easier that way. Better app rule management, similar to Palo. Maybe I'm not understanding it. I don't see the BGP use cases much there. I mean, it's got BGP, but I've not had in the small business place a lot of people asking for it. The other side of it is their Site Magic, I know, uses some of that on the back end to manage all the routes. So when we've tied them together, I've tested the Site Magic. I'm like, well, that was easy. So I guess if you're trying to do it manually is why you would want those other features. Looking to get a US Pro HD24 for home. Inter VLAN routing layer feature. Why would I use it when I can control everything for routed through the UDM Pro Max anyways? No, I don't know why so many people. I just had someone yesterday ask me that same question. They reached out for consulting and they wanted a ton of rules, all so they could do inter VLAN routing on one of the UniFi switches. I'm like, why? And at present, I haven't really played with it much. The documentation last I checked, maybe it's gotten better, but it was not very good. So I just kind of like ignored it, saying I remember when we first tested it, it's been out for a little while. It just was so basic. And I know it's on a roadmap to add a lot more features to it, but I mostly look at people who are architecting things and go, why do you need this? That's the, always my first question, because a lot of times people think they need it, but they're architecting things weird. Or as I tell so many people, quit routing your storage. And that's what this person, I didn't completely understand their full setup of what they were asking. They used some of the words wrong when they sent me the scope of work. But when you say you want 27 VLANs because you want like every single service on its own VLAN and then a series of rules between each VLAN, I'm like, why? That's like, when you look at the way you architect things, it just doesn't make as much sense. At least to me, it doesn't. I would avoid the TP-Link Omada stuff. It just doesn't feel that much less expensive, and it's definitely a lot more buggy. Were you a problem? Two equally undesirable solutions, PfSense or UniFi. What do I call this problem since they are both desirable? I mean, they're both desirable, so the dilemma is solving which one you want. We still have a lot of netgates out there. I haven't heard a thing about CE 2.8. I don't know when that's going to be released. NetGate's not very forthcoming now. They're still pushing releases for the PfSense Plus version. I just feel right now they're not really, because it's been over a year since they've done the PfSense CE, that it's just in maintenance mode. I mean, there's been patches for it, but just patches. That's it. They don't seem to be doing any features for it. Um, I just don't think the Edge line was as popular. It certainly never had as many features as the UniFi line. So I think they're just going where the more like focusing on the UniFi line instead of the Edge. At some point, companies have to figure out like how much they want to have competing products. I haven't had any Wi-Fi speed issues with the U7 series. Well, that's interesting. So if you miss a firmware update with Amada, you're out of luck, huh? Cyber secure. Are you talking about the Proofpoint cyber secure? I'm assuming. I don't really have much of an opinion on it. People keep asking about it. There's no effective way to test it. And let me pull it up here. There's more rules in there, and if you think those rules are going to help you, and there's better threat detection rules, awesome. I'm like, we're gonna probably have some clients using it because it checks their security boxes, but yeah. Edge wasn't exactly a fork of Vios. Vios, I'm sure remember someone will say it. There is I can't remember the name of it. There's another open source firewall that was forked, and Edge took a piece of it and Vios took a piece of it too. So they actually have same beginnings. Vios has been a lot more actively developed. I can't remember. You can look it up though. It's where Vios was forked from. Happy Thursday, Matt. I think the shadow mode is pretty cool. I'm probably going to set it up, and it's a neat feature that they've added. It's really easy. I've played around with it. I've set it up and broke it, and yeah, no problem. How do you get the traffic flow animation on a topology page? You go over to the topology page, and you click the little show animation at the top, right there. And that's what gives you the animations. I think you have to have devices on here, and then it'll show them. Let me reload the page. There we go. Then you get the animation for the traffic. Huh. It misplaced one of the servers. It's like, I don't know where you belong. That's funny. The Kia DHCP is not feature complete, so I don't know what the different. I've done the migration. If it's just basic DHCP, it seems to work, but when you have some advanced settings, it doesn't always seem to work. Well, and this is one of the things I talked about before. I've got a video talking about the efficacy of things like Snort and Sarikata, and it just misses a lot unless you're going to do SSL inspection. And if you're not going to do SSL inspection, then you're going to miss most of it. The only thing you're doing is saying, hey, we've got block lists. We can block lots of things. I don't really recommend using VMs inside of TrueNAS, so I don't know. I don't look at it as a virtualization platform. I've never had the best of luck with the VMs. I've always found them to be a little quirky, and it was worse in core. It's better in scale, but it's not something I spent much time with at all. Just set up my first UniFi system last week. It's amazing. High latency notice when logging the app. I never had an issue with the ISP performance. Can I hide those alerts? I have put that in as a request, and so have lots of other people, because that's an annoying alert that I have gotten as well, but I can't find a problem. I get these high latency alert notices. I have not done much testing with Teleport to answer that question. Yes, Uh, yep, this is Railstream, and I'm going to bring them up right now. This is my friend's company, and this is where we're putting where we just moved 70 terabytes of data. So let me pull this up real quick. If anyone's interested, Railstream, it is what it sounds like. You have live cameras of if you want to watch trains across all kinds of different areas. It's really cool. I've been sharing some of this. We're going to be doing some videos together on the infrastructure it takes to run this. But it's pretty wild what he's built here. It's the amount of data that passes through this is just wild to me, and it's been fun. We're also me and Mike from Railstream are going to be talking about some of the other storage projects we're working on, and a few other fun things is what I'll call them, because instead of just, you can always, and I don't get me wrong, for big production equipment, I love just buying servers, and it's great when there's a budget. But what if you don't have a budget and you want to be able to, build a good amount of data and storage without breaking the bank? And Mike came up with some, clever stuff. And when you're moving, when you're moving 20 terabytes a day of data, so it's interesting what it takes to move. And that's probably a good video title, like what it takes to move 20 terabytes a day. And it's there's a lot on the back end. So we'll be diving into all the storage, everything else, the migration, because he's been using Proxmox, but we're looking at XCP-ng. So there's a lot me and Mike will talk about. It'll be fun. I'm pretty excited about all the stuff because it's cool seeing it all work. Now, I've seen people complain about this high latency related to PPOE clients. I don't know how to solve that at all or have any suggestions. One, I can't test PPOE. I don't see it very often here in the United States. I'm not saying it's never used. I'm saying I don't see it often, at least not in the areas we service. So I don't have any way to test that. So really, we get people reaching out for help with it. I'm like, I don't know how to help. I mean, I could remote in, but I don't know how to solve that particular problem. That's a lot of posts in the forums. Yes, lots of fun playing with all this tech. Should you buy a Sophos used hardware or buy a PCI dual 10 gig NIC for my home PfSense? I have Proxmox server at home. I mean, the Sophos servers, as far as I know, I've never looked at them. They're probably all x86 based, so they should work. So yeah. I don't have a better answer than that, or a more in-depth one. I never tested their used hardware. I would use UniFi equipment in bigger campus network with 1,000 users and 20 sites. Yeah. I've done quite a few installs. I mean, I've talked about some of the installs we did like 5 years ago that were like 300 access points, several thousand people attached to it, and it works fine. Yeah, I always think of DSL whenever someone says PPOE. I just don't see it. I think, if I understand correctly, some of the fiber places are using it. How accurate is Design Center for AP placement, camera placement? It's as accurate as you upload the details to. So there's a lot that goes into Wi-Fi planning. It's hard to do when you're simulating walls. So that's always a challenge. You know what I mean? Simulating like where the walls are and then trying to say, I think this material will block Wi-Fi this much. It's hard. UniFi does not support Tailscale. Someone here says, don't buy a Sophos XGS, OpenSense, PfSense, or OpenWRT. Yeah, I've never used their old hardware, so I don't really know. Dakota works for an ISP, so, and you guys don't use PPOE. I feel like Canada and UK is where I hear people talk about PPOE the most. That seems to be the most popular place for it. That at least that I can tell. People don't always tell me where they're from. One of the things that was kind of painful is is leaving your UniFi on the topology page. It will eventually not do its thing anymore, and we'll just close that tab. I have noticed if you just leave the topology page with the animation, I think it runs out of memory. I don't know. But this, on the other hand, is one of the challenges I did have. When you're setting up, and I'm a big person on like everything has to be a series of reservations. This was painful. This is where UniFi is going to have to kind of pick up the pace, if you will. Here are some of the reserved devices I have. So I had to put all these in and one by one set them so I had all my IP addresses where I wanted them to be. And by the way, I got more than one network of these. So here's like all these different networks that I have all the devices set to DHCP. But I had to get them all set up inside of UniFi. It doesn't have any import export. So the way you have to do that in UniFi, and I like that you can predefine them by going here and put the MAC address in and a device alias and put fixed IP and put it in here. But putting these all in one by one without an import option was kind of pain. Now, there's not a direct way to import them into PfSense, by the way. In PfSense, you can do it by messing with the XML file. I just like that there's a method, but it was a little bit tedious doing that. It's not terrible, and I got them all set up. It was just a little bit of a pain to do it, but I will admit their display for finding clients is really nice and seeing what those clients are doing, seeing any of the data on the clients, or looking at the log for when Tom connected his system there, or the fact that I use, 38 megabytes of Slack. I watch more YouTube than anything else. Oh, and apparently I use Google Docs a bit too. So this is I like the way UniFi displays this. It makes it a lot easier. Any idea on comparison between OpenSense, PfSense versus latest UniFi firewall versus WatchGuard for SMB? I don't have any experience with WatchGuard, so I don't. There seems to be people who love it, people who hate it. I've not used it, and I don't really want to buy one for a review. The problem with a lot of reviews, especially if you're, like too many of the lightweight YouTube reviews are, I bought a box, I plugged it in, it works with my 6 devices. That doesn't tell you anything. That's why even me and Mike are doing these real world reviews of the UniFi firewall, or even myself with all these devices. It's when you really test something is when you find out if it works well. We do have more clients that do have firewalls that are UniFi, not a lot, a few, and we're going to deploy more of them as people need upgrades. We're not doing rip and replaces, but it's an option now. So when someone needs a firewall upgrade, we're like, okay, UniFi is a viable choice for them. It's that learning process where you learn a lot more. So I can't really offer you any suggestions on a WatchGuard one. I would avoid OpenSense. OpenSense is a fun project, but all the updating they do breaks things. They had an update a few weeks ago that broke VLANs for a bunch of people. And, they had it fixed within 12 hours, but I can't have something that breaks VLANs. That would be a problem. I guess it only broke it if you were using one specific chipset, but they have a lot of updates that just kind of cause some issues. And then you do have the business version, but I've also pointed out the fact that OpenSense lags behind on security. So I don't look at them as a viable option, but some people like them. And if you like using it, feel free. As far as I did recently this year, a PfSense versus UniFi. So I've covered that. I have not tried connecting UniFi Identity to on-premise AD. I believe it's a newer feature, but I have not spent any time with it. That is where UniFi really needs to work on is their documentation. As the joke that I get occasionally in the comments, all you do, Tom, is read things online and make videos about them. I can just go read the manual. I'm like, yes, you can. Why are you watching this video? That is what I do. Many of my videos are from reading the manual. I RTFM and make a video. But UniFi's kind of lack of documentation around some of their things is why there's a lack of tutorials. So I think UniFi needs to kind of work on some of the tutorials or just good write-ups. If they just gave us good write-ups, people like me and others on YouTube will create tutorials out of them. Yeah, copy paste import would be amazing. On your MSP business, what's your preferred hypervisor offsite backup solution? I do really like XCP-NG. Sometimes you may use the XCP-NG backup, but most of the stuff at CNWR runs on Veeam for the backups. Any comments on PfSense CE? No further package updates. It's in maintenance mode. They have patches if there's problems, but it's in maintenance mode, as I would call it, where they're not adding new features that I can tell. I don't know when they're going to add features. Like they've updated a lot, but they have it's been over a year and they still don't have like a date they plan to release PfSense 2.8. So I don't really know. I've been trying to simulate my network plan. Is there any tools you recommend for a Homelab planner? Draw.io is great for drawing diagrams. Get a spreadsheet and throw all of your stuff in there and figure out what needs to go on what network. Actually, yeah, Railstream moved over from PfSense. So when we're done, there's going to be 38 VPNs, I believe, set up in there that are migrated off of the from the PfSense system. So you use the WatchGuard at work, HA pair, it's decent. We don't make use of the extra fluff features, firewalls, etc. I have not touched WatchGuard in forever. The last time I touched WatchGuard is back when they used to have that weird Windows utility to manage them. Last one I ever used, and obviously that was like 15 years ago. I think it was maybe longer. Any thoughts on NetBox as an open source truth of documentation for IPAM? Yeah, so we're using Auvik, but NetBox is cool. So if you're looking for an open source tool, NetBox is great. It's on my to-do list to set it up. I just haven't gotten around to it. But for business, Auvik is what CNWR has been using. We've been using it for a long time. It produces, it's integrated into our documentation and process. I think the problem is like the UniFi offering advanced software at a cheap price and PfSense is lagging behind is you don't get how much bigger UniFi, for example, is. I don't know much about Railstream, but I mean, UniFi is a company worth $23 billion. They have resources to do these things. So I can tell you UniFi Netgate is not worth anywhere near $23 billion. I mean, I don't really know how much they're worth, but I'll throw it out there that I don't think they're worth 23 billion. If you change the network that UniFi ID VPN connects to, it currently uses default LAN. I don't know. I haven't used UniFi ID. I know Auvik loves advertising that. I mean, Auvik said, I mean, if you go through there's probably terms and conditions that you should read to know what that offer entails. I'm sure they don't just give stuff away for free without probably a credit card or something from you. I don't know. We're a paying user of Auvik. So yeah, I don't know what their offers are. I've seen the ads. I've scrolled by them before. I know you host your own website. What are your thoughts on if you had to start over, would you do it again? I used to not host my own website. The only reason I host my own website is to gather some statistics. The problem I had was I had no web stats, not good ones, I should say. I was like, my website seems to get traffic based on bandwidth, but doesn't get traffic based on Google Analytics. It turns out, and this leans into the crowd that I've curated here of people using ad blockers. But I think this goes across the industry. Ad blockers are pretty common, along with more specifically privacy trackers. Are kind of the same thing. Usually, if you have an ad blocker, you get a privacy tracker that deletes all the Google things. And only 18% or less, I can't remember, it's been a while since I looked, because I got rid of all the Google Analytics on there. Only 18% was the number of people would come to my website. So I was losing 80% of the information. When you host your own website, I pull all the information from raw logs. So when you're raw logging it, you can just dump all the data and see the traffic directly that hits your site. I was like, wow, my website's a lot busier than I thought. So that's one of my reasons I host it myself. I don't recommend it. I can't tell you any other advantage other than having raw logs. Matter of fact, by all means, you shouldn't host it because it's a time suck of maintaining it. So as a WatchGuard system manager still exists. That's interesting. Why do you need a NAC solution first? That's like, I think people overthink that and create complexity. I always ask, like, what problem are you trying to solve? That's always the first question with a NAC solution. It's so commoditized if you're just looking at WordPress stuff. So I don't really have a go-to. I was using, only because they're local here, a company out of Ann Arbor called A2 Hosting. That's where I used to host a lot of my stuff. I don't have any one particular place I host with, though. Drinking a beer. No, I'm drinking, not sponsored by, but be cool if they did, Liquid Death. It's a iced tea. What is it? Yeah. Actually, green guillotine, green tea. It says Liquid Death. I feel you have to put some emphasis when you read it. I don't use Sophos. I've talked to a handful of people that do. They seem to be mixed on it. They say it's mediocre. I will say Sophos, when they've had security issues, they've been very on top of it. That's great, but I don't know enough about it to really give like an honest opinion. I don't know if they're worth what you pay for them. I don't know if they're worth what the licensing fees are. So I don't really have a good way to do a direct comparison. Yes, I have a new system I'm setting up for self-hosted ones. Matt, the behind the scenes Matt, who's been doing lots of fun stuff at Lawrence Systems, he has a bunch of it set up already. It's on my to-do list to set it up. I've been building my lab first. My lab is built, so now I can, that's one of my projects. And maybe if I'm feeling inspired, I'll put it together tonight. Sponsorship book. Awesome. Deep Seek videos from Tom, missing out on all those. I have my perspectives on some of the stuff. I've been running self-hosted. It's not new. I've had set up. I just never did a video on it. I've used Olama. We've been using it in CNWR for a year, maybe longer. It's been a while, probably over a year. I've been using it on and off. I've been testing it out. I just never did any videos on it. I might do a couple videos. So when I dealt with Sophos support was excellent. There was support for UniFi that has been lacking for years. UniFi support is getting better. One of my other friends, he had a lot of problems as a reseller with a bunch of the Sophos stuff. So, and he's a really smart technician. He always had some issues with it. One of my things is, and this goes for both Netgate and UniFi, I've never called their support on either one of them. I'm usually the person, I guess, posting the solutions in forums, usually my forums, and figuring it out. So I've never really used their support, but that kind of goes the same with TrueNAS. Like if I have a question with TrueNAS, it's usually a pretty, like, because I've been using it for so many years, it's a question that I end up opening up a ticket for because it's usually a bug I found. I don't know. I've been doing this for so long. I've never really needed a lot of their support. So that's one of those things I have a hard time evaluating is how good is support because, I don't really use the support for many of those companies. What's the top systems we've been asked to rip and replace? There's always a variety of things. We see a lot of Fortinet out there. I mean, Fortinet's really popular. Lots of people in the MSP space use it. So if we're taking over for an MSP, we're going to see Fortinet. We're going to see Meraki. We don't see as often. I'm trying to think, like, we don't see PfSense. I don't think I've ever come across an OpenSense out of business. We've had people that reached out to us for consulting, but like local IT services we do. I don't think I've ever run into an OpenSense system. Is there a way to have a real-time backup of MVR cameras? There's probably things you can do with some models. The problem is it's getting all that data off site. So you have to have a big enough pipe to it. Matter of fact, scroll back to us talking about Railstream and essentially kind of what they're doing. These are, high quality cameras, and being able to get all this data back off of here is how you move 20 terabytes a day. How do you move 20 terabytes a day? That's the real question. So how many cameras do you have? And do you have a connection fast enough to even get the data out the door that fast? That's where the bigger challenge often is. UniFi actually does have support for 802.1x. I've not really tested it much, but I know they do have some options for it. It's not something I really used. I might do a feature. They've added a lot of features for it. Like every time I'm looking at the updates, they're always adding to the 802.1x and port authentication. I've not done a lot of testing with it. Would you recommend a UDM Pro for a financial institution and a UC Max for their branches? Then you say, like, yeah, that should work. It depends on their speed needs. So UniFi does now list the speed of the VPN. So make sure that the speed of the VPN matches what works for you. Well, this is the thing. People worry a lot about it, and then they create a system so complicated it breaks. This is why I bring it up. I mean, are you that worried about people plugging things into ports? It's a pretty rare occurrence. I mean, it's a physical security thing, but if someone, really has that level of skill that they're going to be in your building, in your interface, plugging things in, and they could also be unplugging things to plug other stuff in or cloning a MAC address. There's different ways around it if they're that determined. If you read where the hacks happen, and it's less common of a thing, locking down so things are in DHCP are only allowed if they're reserved makes sense. So things don't get IP addresses if they're plugged in, turning off ports that aren't in use. Those are simpler ways of handling it. But I mean, you do have some NAC options out there. I've just not really spent a lot of time testing them. Self-hosted versus standard Bitwarden benefits. Is it worth self-hosting? My problem often when people self-host is they don't maintain. So as long as you're fine maintaining it, self-hosting works fine with it. uBlock Origin is the popular. uBlock Origin. Great tool. What do you recommend for a small 2.5 gig, 10 gig switch? Homelab Learning Network was looking at Ubiquity or MikroTik. So MikroTik is more command line driven. They have a UI, but some of the advanced stuff you kind of have to go to the command line for MikroTik. So from a learning standpoint, MikroTik's great because you're going to learn. You're going to learn how it works. You're going to learn how to make it work. So I have no problem with those in terms of like that works well. But if you're looking for simplicity, UniFi's got the simplicity down. So are you trying to learn more about network engineering? MikroTik packs a lot of features, but they have a steeper learning curve because of all the features they pack in there. I've done some research, Epic versus Xeon so far. I don't get why anyone would choose Intel server platform over the availability of E-Waste enterprise grade Homelet. Any opinion? No, the Epic stuff is great. Yeah, disable unused ports. That's what I tell people if that's a big concern. Where I worked, there's a network port on the outside of the building by the back door. I was there for a couple years before checking to see if it worked. It did, doesn't anymore. Yeah. Yep. The there's a lot of it's one of those things where I see so many people get focused on like physical security. And don't get me wrong, I love, and I think this is a lot of why I love the hacker stories of physical pen testing. It's amazing. They're great. Deviant Olem, master storyteller about really good pen testing stories. Jason Street, met him a couple times. Great guy. Wonderful stories about pen testing and physical security. But as someone who has dealt with tons of incidents. Zero of all the incidents I've ever dealt with had anything to do with physical. People clicked a phishing email. People clicked something from a mail advertising campaign. And it's crazy because that is like the most common way that people get hacked. Now, that is the threat model of many small businesses. If you are someone, let's say the US military, you have different concerns about physical security. If you are a contractor for the US military, you have different concerns about physical security than you do if you're a small business. So there's definitely a spot for it. It's just not the realm that I'm in as much. You know, if you are, and I've met people that've also got wonderful stories. I knew someone that his job was testing the security essentially on the battlefront. So when he was deployed in Iraq or Afghanistan overseas, he would still run certain drills to make sure the OPSEC was good and all of the security of the front line. It was really interesting because he would always have to test things. Did someone leave this open? So it can be very interesting. And like I said, there's definitely a place for it. It's just not the field that I work in. And maybe you do work in that field and it's important to have like that high levels of security. Social engineering and phishing is what I experience the most in large enterprise. I'd recommend train employees not to fall for cyber traps. At least the rest leave security experts. Yeah. Um, you know, they have all kinds of, my friend works for a pretty large enterprise company. And he have lots of those physical things. He works in a medical space, lots of, you know, NAC. I don't know what they use for a NAC solution. I know they have it. You can't just plug anything in. But all their cybersecurity incidents are phishing campaigns. That's like, and it's a problem. It's just a way of, it's what you're going to get attacked with more than anything else. So if your budget is like, well, I can spend a lot of time and money on a network access control solution, or I can spend more time, you know, training employees, filtering email, et cetera, that's probably a better use of the resources because that's just where the attacks are happening right now. Yep, that too. You end up with an entire bunch of inventory of devices that you have to make bypasses for all the time. Yep. One may have a super NAC set up and then forgetting that you can sniff the air and hack the network from outside a parking lot. Yeah. Always ask yourselves what possible impact probabilities are. I think I've shared this story here before, but it's worth saying again. Just the level of dumb that happened at a client, and they got their AWS instance hacked. And the the root cause is so stupid. They did have disgruntled employees, so we think a disgruntled employee did this, and they did properly delete the access of that employee. Great job. Awesome. Fantastic. They fired the employee, they deleted the access, the employee rolls up, assumingly, based on logs, assumingly rolls up into the parking lot. They had several disgruntled, so we don't even know which one did it. Grabs the guest network. Now, the guest network shouldn't get you to their AWS instance unless, and this is the gotcha, unless you have decided your AWS instance is completely open based on IP address. So your guest network goes out the same IP as your other network. So they did have guest separation from primary network, but guest network went out the same IP, which meant it had access to their AWS over the VPN. The VPN went out there, and everything was just filtered by IP. And I was like, oh, this is terrible. And the guest network was on it. Yeah. So it's one of those things. All that stuff they thought was good until it wasn't. Fun stuff. Yeah, all the big issues with anti-phishing and is managers don't like being hit with penalties. They're in charge, and they often the biggest click it. Yeah, oh, absolutely. What's your choice for most clients in VPN? WireGuard or something else? We use mainly OpenVPN. WireGuard is growing on us. Well, what are you trying to VPN? If you're asking choice for client, is it site to site? I like WireGuard for site to site. It works well. But I also have to be interoperable. So when I'm interoperable, meaning I don't control what's on the other end, it's almost always IPsec. Like I have this VPN, I have whatever firewall I may choose, but someone else has their own choice, and that choice usually falls down to that. So it's going to be IPsec. So site to site with WireGuard is great. Site to site with IPsec works fine. Users, though, if it's a Meraki system, it's going to use the Meraki VPN. What is it called? Connect Anywhere. And if it's a PfSense, it's going to use OpenVPN. So there's not like one answer. It depends. You ever use the USB-C to SFP plus 10 gig converter? Nope, never have. What about SIEM and SOAR? What is your question about SIEM and SOAR? Sometimes someone plugs a repeater or breaks the Wi-Fi. It's a problem only if the Wi-Fi has a block device feature. Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to do, I would not use site to site as much with OpenVPN. I mean, it can work. Matter of fact, one of the annoying problems, this is something they're working on. When you're setting up UniFi with the migration from my PfSense system over to UniFi, I do have some site to site. The WireGuard system, I played with it for a while. Once again, either lack of knowledge on my part, lack of documentation, because I didn't find a really good solution, was I just went to OpenVPN, because getting the PfSense and the WireGuard talking to each other, they connect, but I can't get traffic to route. And I've seen other people exactly the same problem. I didn't see solutions to it. So yeah, I just popped over on OpenVPN and I have connectivity and it works. Oh, I highly recommend, and completely got to disclose my bias towards it. So I use a company called Fin Security. So let's pull up their site. I have to disclose my bias because I'm an honest person. Fin, stress-free security awareness training. I'm an investor, but we use the product because it works really, really well. Fin is amazing for phishing training. If you dig around on my channel, there is a video on Fin. I interview Connor, and we talk about how it works. It's a short video explaining what Fin is and how they work and what they do and why they're different. They're different enough that I invested in them as a company, and I have been happy with them. So big shout out to my friends at Fin. UDM IPsec seems to work fine. Matter of fact, coming back to Railstream, the UDM is running IPsec for much of those right now. I mean, SIEM and SOAR is great. The SOAR part's a little, usually more in the enterprise space. As far as what we do, we use a tool called Blumera. And yes, they are a sponsor of the channel in the past and probably in the future, but we actually use their product for SIEM management. Technically, it's doing a level of security orchestration because it can provide, depending on how you configure it, blocking. But I don't know what the question is on it. There's plenty of documentation or information on it. I need probably a more specific question. OpenVPN is usually not the ideal situation for site to site. You can, but if you're doing a couple PfSenses, WireGuard's way faster, generally speaking. I mean, OpenVPN DCO, data channel offload, can bring it OpenVPN up to speed, but WireGuard's great. I think WireGuard's awesome. If you're doing the site magic with UniFi, it's using WireGuard on the back end. Already talked about his preferred SIM. Just raw logging it. Just raw log it, man. Just dump it all somewhere. Yeah, you do have to add some gateways and static routes for the WireGuard one. That's true. And OpenVPN has the option to put the routes in. So, I mean, if it's working, there's not a security problem with it. OpenVPN, provided you're not using really old ciphers for some reason, it doesn't default to them. But if you're setting it up with Next and Yes with the wizard, or you're just using normal, the modern ciphers in it, there's not a reason not to use it. It works fine. Oh, let's see. IPsec will perform better than WireGuard on hardware that has AES hardware acceleration. Depends. Once again, it depends. And frequently in modern CPUs, WireGuard can do. Often WireGuard is not the limitation for your speed. Your speed limitation is usually your internet connection. Granted, moving up to the enterprise or data center level, it's different if you have a 10 or 20 gig pipe. But a lot of times the CPUs are fast enough in modern systems that your limitation usually isn't the VPN for getting data from where it is tunneled over to where you want it to be. Teleport is pretty cool. That's built in. Yes. I'm waiting for the UniFi EFG review for sure. Quick question though. Do you think the EFG is a complete firewall? It can be for the majority of companies out there that need much power or lag. Yeah. I mean, the EFG versus the UXG Enterprise, the one we're going to review in production is UXG Enterprise, but the EFG is the same. I believe it's got the same processor and everything in it. So the reviews can kind of be one and the same. They have slightly different firmwares, but they pretty much have the same features. And so I guess it could kind of be the same for both. But yeah, I think they're very reasonable firewalls. Like many people ask UniFi or PfSense like questions. I am in the same space, but for SIMs. I mean, my preference for SIM is Blumera. Like I said, we use them. They have been a solid company. I'll pull up their site so people know what I'm saying. BLUMIRA. And if you happen to be in, I guess I don't know where you're at. They're a US company and they can't cover Europe. So I don't think they cover all of Europe. They have they can't cover some regions. So I don't know where you're at. If you're in the US, awesome. Just raw logging it. Yes. Do you do ZTA? So if so, what do you guys use and what strategies use the local networks? Most of the time with everything being SSO, that kind of is so many things just work through the browser. So that kind of is you're basing everything on identity, not network. So the Azure tools and everything else work for that. I don't think we have anyone using Okta. I don't see as many like in our space, third-party IDPs. Yeah, FIPS compliance, government garbage. We have to be compliant with government stuff because somebody made rules that said so. I don't work in that space, and I'm happy I don't, because government compliant doesn't necessarily mean more secure. It just means you've checked the box that makes the auditors happy. DeepSeek locally on server with the llama, is it worth it? Or are there other options? I mean, there's a lot of options out there. I've played with the Dolphin Mistral ones. I've played with I can't remember all the different models. I'm building a new system where I'll play with more of them. And enough people have been asking me about it. I kind of avoided it, but I'll probably do a video on some of them. I mean, use whatever one you think works for you. The problem is none of them are great. That's my opinion. Like there's none of them that go, oh man, this is amazing. It's like all of them go, let me just tell you something that completely doesn't make any sense randomly. UniFi has so many ways VPN connectivity. Among UniFi identity, there's also Wi-Fi, man. Any opinion on which solution? The UniFi teleport seems to work fine. I've tested it before. I set it up for my friend. He's been using it and he thinks it works wonderful. He's got it on his laptop and on his phone. Let's see here. Do you plan on doing a Frigate Corel UniFi Protect AI object scanning? I've looked at Frigate. I just don't feel like taking the time to learn it. It's a neat project, but there's other people that have taken the time that probably do better videos on it than I ever will. So there's not a lot of comparison I plan to do. Wazoo is open source, can run. I've talked about this. I've got a video on Wazoo secure. Matter of fact, if anyone didn't notice, I'm wearing a Security Onion shirt today. Oh, it's on the side. So yeah, Security Onion. Those are all tools if you're looking for open source SIEM management. Yeah. If you want evidence of AI hallucinations as a creator, try looking at some unhinged suggestion of YouTube provides for replies. Yes. Absolutely. Llama 2 is pretty smart too. Yeah, there's a lot of different AI ones. There's some that are more specific, and those are probably better, where you go and get the models that are to what you're doing. There's like the general AI stuff, but then there's like the code specific ones that makes more sense if you're trying to use it for coding. What technology do I use for live streaming? Is everything open source? No, it's not. I'm using a service called StreamYard because it makes it easy. But I do use OBS, which is open source. So when I'm using OBS, which I'm not right now, it works well. OBS is pretty cool, but like the way I can pull these comments up and some of the other features of StreamYard, I like it. So I pay for the service. It just works well. But I am going to take a quick break because I need to go get another drink. I have now finished this, and I'm not going to get another one. I'm going to fill up my water glass, but I will be right back. Take a quick break. 1 second. Or actually, it's going to be about a minute. catch up on all the comments. Let's see. Oh yeah, the A1000s are expensive. Raw logging it, man. What is a great choice for coding? I don't know, because even the reasoning model I was testing with the OpenAI one just gets it wrong. It's just like, let me just give you some bad code. Let me just give you a Docker without some of the information. When I'm like, hey, just build this Docker compose for me, just breaks it. Gives me. I'm looking at it going, that doesn't look right. Yep, okay, it's not right. I'm like, hey, you missed this, this, and this. And it says, oh, sorry, because it will give the error. I can't remember what the error was exactly, but it had things in a wrong spot. I'm like, I just wanted a simple Docker compose file. I'm guessing you're sure. Security Onion greater than Wazoo? I don't know which one's better. I've never used either in production environments. I've got more experience with Security Onion. Wazoo's pretty cool, but there's one of the big differences I pointed out in my comparison video where I was talking about different security tools was Wazoo that I seen, and maybe it was me, and I did say this, maybe I'm misunderstanding it. It doesn't seem to do 100% full packet captures versus Security Onion. That's part of its fundamental use, is that it captures everything so you can reverse it. Now, the downside of capturing everything is you have to put everything somewhere. So the good and bad, the putting everything somewhere is a problem, but it does capture all of it. So as long as you have the storage to put everything somewhere, awesome. Wazoo is more looking at things and flagging things, but I thought Wazoo was a good platform as well. I think the reason LLMs suck is because most of the knowledge out there sucks too. It's a lot bigger of a problem. If you want to dive deep, go through some of Ed Zitron, Zitron. If you look him up, he's talked realistically about AI many times. He's cited many articles. There's a lot of the people, I believe. So there's two different types of AI people: smart science people and people trying to raise money. The people trying to raise money are almost universally full of BS. The smart science people who really look at it going, this appears to be an intractable problem for hallucinations based on the way we build the models. And here's a really long, boring research paper explaining why that you may want to take the time to read. But the person raising money goes, if you give me enough money, I'll solve the problem. And the current, you'll give me enough money, solve the problem has stacked up to, if you give me enough nuclear power plants, I will solve the problem of hallucinations. Okay. You're burning more money than any company has ever burnt without a real solid return on a product that works. You got a beta product for a couple of years now. I don't get I think it's the doubling down. Like, so many big people are so overly invested in AI, they can't ever admit it was wrong, that it's not going to do the thing that they're going to do. So he said, frigate comproface combination. Frigate's, like I said, neat. But so there's a lot of people that have done some tutorials on it. So yeah. Hey, ChatGPT, measure twice, cut once. Right. Yeah, you have to go and ask those type of questions of it. It just kind of gives you it's really weird, because it went off on a rant. I was using the Google one. I use the Google one for optimizing videos. And it just did something weird the other day. It was doing analysis and it just dumped a bunch of crazy data. It just started going off on a tangent of how something worked, that it was contextually related to what I was talking about the video, but the request was, please make chapters. It made a few chapters and then decided to explain in greater detail something I mentioned in my video. I'm like, oh, okay, you have decided to go off on a tangent. That's cool. Looking at open source centralized logging and log analytics tools and recommendations besides Graylog. Nope. I still use Graylog. I don't have another suggestion besides them. Graylog's been a good go-to tool for me. Haven't really had a problem with it. I do like kind of what you said here, though, tying things to Home Assistant. And I know people have used like Frigate with Home Assistant too. Tying things to Home Assistant is definitely pretty cool. I seen a really fun demo that someone had using Home Assistant. Now, granted, they were using a third party. They weren't using Frigate. They were sending their porch camera over to one of the visual inputs for, I think it was one of them supported by OpenAI. But then OpenAI would just, the only thing it had to do is every time there was a motion frame, it would grab the frame and have it describe what it's seen in a frame and bring it back over into as a response inside of Home Assistant. I thought it was just a novel way to set that up. We will see more desktop products for Homelab AI integrations. I'm seeing more NUC style Jetson models, hoping to see more in 2025. Oh yeah. I think as long as there's a demand for that, there will be a lot more of it. I mean, they're following demand more than anything else. Currently, the demand, because people keep giving these people money, as long as people keep giving OpenAI and Google lots of money and telling them to buy NVIDIA, they're going to keep doing it. But as these models, as people have been showing with the DeepSeek model, become more available to us, we need hardware to run it on. And the fact that it'll run on some of the smaller hardware is awesome. And then more of us want it, which means there'll be more of those products being made to meet that demand. I don't have any suggestions for a free RMM for the Homelab. Yes, I'm still using LogSeek. Yes, PfSense Plus is lifetime on their hard. Well, it's the life of the hardware. So as long as that hardware is in their support cycle, but they have a really long support cycle. Dave's Garage has some good videos on some of those topics. Look how cool this chat is. Maybe we need a room in IRC. Well, I can only chat for so long because at some point my voice gets hoarse and I don't know, I got to eat, sleep, and do other things. I wouldn't say PfSense CE is dead. It's just in maintenance mode. It's still getting patches, but yeah. Now, this is where it gets kind of cool, is to take it a step further what this person had done. And I think, let me pull up a picture of it because I thought this was really funny, but also really cool at the same time. Where'd that photo go? Here it is. So we've got a one, that's not the one. Where is it at? There we go. Dorcine. He, it recognizes and could put information in here. And this was just really novel to me. What he was doing is it would describe it and then it would add events to his calendar. So he had another slide I don't think I took a picture of where it was describing what it saw, like when someone dropped a package off. And it was like, oh, that's super cool. It's kind of a neat idea, though. Yeah, he didn't have it on here. I don't have a slide of it anyways. But the concept was in Home Assistant, as the AI saw something on the porch, it says, hey, a person set this on the porch. It would then add a calendar event as an entry. So, at a 9:54 a.m., a box was set on your porch. A man in a brown outfit set a box on your porch. Cool. UPS delivered something. So I have a Discord. I just get too many Discord notifications. I don't mind if people tag me in it, but the challenge is chatting is fun. I love chatting with people, but time constraints don't let me do it as often as I want. But I do have a Discord, and you can find me in there. people tag me and ask me questions, and I'll answer them. I'm better at forums when it comes to support, but just chatting away, yeah, Discord's fine for that. Yeah. Automation, send the robot to get the package. There you go. That's when it's like even better. You've done the whole thing and then you do that. Yeah, I had fun. The event I was at is called Code Mash, and it was just a lot of fun with all the things they had going on. I was also looking at all these. Not that I need another hobby, but maybe this summer I'll get into some of these. So these are the Mesh-tastic systems. I think he said that had a 5-mile range with that antenna. So I was like, wow, Mesh-tastic is a pretty cool project. Jeff Geerling's talked about it. If Jeff Geerling was closer, I'd be into it. Jeff Geerling lives further away than Mesh-tastic will reach, unless we can get a lot of relays. Based on answers I previously got, you picked up a 10G TP-Link router. Now I need advice on what SIP modules will any work. I don't know which ones work with the TP-Link. I'm not sure. I don't think TP-Link has any restrictions. Your DeepSeek video is picking up 500 views in one day, which is huge for us. Do you have any advice for smaller growing YouTube channels? Keep producing content. That's the biggest thing. Don't niche yourself into just what's popular. That's one of the reasons I don't, if you notice, like, even though I cover UniFi, I don't cover everything on first day release. That's just not me. Also, I don't just follow trends all the time. If it's interesting and I'm interested in it, I will do it. I don't do it for the sake of doing it. I'm doing it because I have an interest in it. Because I have played with some of the DeepSeek stuff. So I'm like, okay, this is cool. And I'll probably do a video on it. But yeah, be known for being good at things and providing a lot of value. Don't just follow the trends, and really put when you put the time in, that helps a lot with doing the YouTube things. License plate readers, AA home security. UniFi just released some of them. I've not tested them. They're pretty neat though. Where can I find more independent, in-depth information about UniFi Firewall? There's other people doing videos about it. I mean, you can search around. I will drop a video link to someone who does. I really like this person's videos. I don't know who they are. They're not a YouTuber. Let me find one of them. They got a great channel name. I'll drop a link to it though. They have some good, very detailed UniFi videos. So I'll throw that out here. Their channel is 777 or 404. I don't know if that's a good name in terms of like Googling it. So, but it's the knowledge is really in depth. It's a very small channel. It only has 5,000 subscribers, but the videos, very technical, very technical. I love the technical depth of the videos. They're not for beginners, but if you're going in depth, this is a in-depth video. What services do you run that send logs to Graylog? My XCPNG, TrueNAS, and UniFi send logs to Graylog. Nope, no announcements on this on PfSense CE. None that I'm aware of. Yeah, I mean, 777 or 404 is definitely a great channel. The videos are really interesting because there's a couple of them that were fascinating in terms of the depth. Lots of UniFi stuff they review too. They have a few other things on there. Log everything, figure out what to do with it later. I mean, if you have the space for it, absolutely log everything. If you don't have the space for it, that's really what it comes down to. I like the idea of log everything. It's a cool concept. It's a different reality. It's the same thing. Like I mentioned Security Onion earlier. I love that you could do full packet capture with Security Onion until you go, oh, that's a lot of data. Most all of the UniFi equipment I've used, I mean, there's some exceptions. There's these switches sitting next to me that are a little bit loud. Most of them are generally pretty quiet. I just don't have any PPOE. I don't have any PPOE set up to test, and I'm not going to build a PPOE server. Fun question. Realize to ask during interviews and blows kids' minds. Can two processes listen on the same port, not a single host? Most answer no. Correct answer if binding on different IPs. Yeah. And this is what it comes down to. Do you have 100 terabytes of storage? Some people do, some people don't. Homelab crosses a lot of things. Yeah. Would it be cool to use AI? I just don't think the AI would do a good job of it. I see people pitching it, but the fact that it randomly hallucinates. So what if AI looks at your logs, decides to hallucinate, and sends you chasing ghosts, sends you chasing things that aren't real, or tells you something confidently that makes no sense at all? It's like, oh no, someone has done all these things to your network. Wait a minute. Hold on. Let me dive into this. Oh, wait, it hallucinated the whole thing. Until you solve, and there's not really solvable the way we currently build the models, until you really solve those type of problems, there's no easy way to just say, let AI take care of it. AI log hallucinations can be worse than current SIM analysis. Yeah, there's already enough challenges tracing false positives in a SIM system. More like ML. So if you keep injecting logs, you can establish a baseline. Well, in theory, like I said, when the system randomly hallucinates and sends you on a wild goose chase of nowhere, yeah. Well, that's debatable. Does AI hallucinate less than InfoSec? I don't know. I have no idea. Like I don't know that answer. I do know this came in. So I have one of these now. So I'll be doing some videos with this too. The 45 drive servers are pretty neat. This is the new Homelab 8. I'm excited for this one. Do you think the Dream Machine Pro Max and a Pro HD24 be too loud for a living room? I don't have, probably not. I have to hold a dB meter up to them, but they're not that, they're pretty quiet. But quiet is dependent on how much load is on them. They have fans in them. So if they get loaded up, they're going to make some more noise. Oh, yeah. The people selling you things are always telling you how magic it is. Of course, it'll fix all these problems. Yes. Me and Mike have played with some of the stuff, and it just screws things up sometimes. It's just like, it just gives you bad information. Or me and Mike used when we were setting up all those drives for what are those called? The dual actuator drives, Mach 2 drives. The dual actuator drives, like when you started breaking it into more VDEVs, you wanted AI to do what is essentially a simple task. It's all a simple math task. You'd think it would do it, but no, it kept screwing it up. So it's kind of weird. The HL15 that is located conveniently. Well, I got a picture of it. The HL15 is right there, and it's quite nice. I like the HL15. AI is interesting. Thus far, not impressed. On paper, it looks like a workable solve, but thus far hasn't shown any benefits. Yeah. This is my favorite part is how AI apologizes to you. Oh, yep, I completely gave you terrible information. uh, to answer the question, where you can buy the box is right here. So there's the HL. They make a 4 and a version, but yes, this is all 45 drives Homelab. Layer 7 firewall. I mean, UniFi is application aware. There's probably, I mean, there's other firewalls out there that have application aware features. Yeah, the HL15 box is super cool, or HL8 box. I like the HL15 as well, by the way. But yeah, this box is super neat. Just a cool design. Super happy with it. Like, I mean, I got to set it up still, but just like staring at it makes me smile. And so I'm just like staring at it going, oh, ooh, ah. Yeah, me and Mike had to go pick it up at our Toledo office. Yeah, that's a little mini ITX board. Yes, Craft Computing did a great job. Jeff is a friend of mine. He's reviewed this as well. Matter of fact, I believe the one Jeff reviewed, this is more refined compared to when Jeff did it. Like there's been some change, minor. So I'll have to look at Jeff's review and see what's different from Jeff's review to the current version they have. I don't have the specs handy right now, but I'll do. It's a higher end one. We have actually we have 2 coming. We have a 4 coming as well. Yeah, Jeff was a pre-production one. Yep, exactly. I avoid QNAP because of the security problems with them. Yeah, I can't remember what all those differences are from what Jeff had. And Jeff worked actively with the team at 45 Drives to give them some feedback and suggestions on it. I forget, I don't remember what the changes are, but there's some. But, this is its released final product, and it's been great. Like, it just, well, I have not been using it, but just really cool. Like the hardware and everything else, we just marveled at it. I've been opening and closing it a lot because I'm It's so well made. It's so over engineered, and that's what makes me so happy about it. It's not just well made. It's like you can looking close at it, you can see it weighs a lot, but it doesn't weigh a lot just because it weighs a lot. It weighs a lot because it is every little detail well made. Look at the hinges and stuff they put on here. I mean, it is overkill, but that's what makes it so cool. Yeah, I'll be running scale on it for sure. Ah, yes. Extra thick metal. You know, what's that Toyota truck that everyone like that old Toyota truck, that one that you can't destroy. Well, it takes a lot to destroy it. It's well engineered like that. That's what makes it cool. I like things. Hilux. That's it. Toyota Hilux. Yeah, there's some good videos on the Toyota Hilux for is it Whistling Diesel? He just tried to destroy it, and just crazy what that truck could do. Toyota built, I mean, that's one of those ones like built like a tank. And that's how this whole thing is built. So, well, I am an hour and a half in, so I am going to wind it down here. I have a few projects I got to finish and a couple things to do, but thank you all for joining. I'll probably do this again on the weekend. I have a few more things to catch up and to make the more official videos on my UniFi switch and things like that, and what went right, what went buggy, and what's coming in the future. I definitely want to be talking about that. And of course, I'll be following up on the switch. So I'll give a shout out again to Mike and Railstream, because that's where we're doing a lot of the other stuff. So if you want to check out Railstream, I'll throw a link in here for you. Me and him are going to be doing some videos on production for how we did some of this behind the scenes stuff and how we make it work. It's been an interesting project to tweak all this. And I'm excited to be able to share like the new storage server, Proxmox versus XCP-NG. We're going to be checking out a lot of this stuff. So if you're interested in checking out Railstream, that's where, like, I like being able to, because this comes up a lot, of being able to talk about clients. A lot of clients decline being, even, we do these big projects for them, but they're like, yeah, we don't want us on YouTube channel. And I'm like, okay, it's free advertising. I mean, so it's definitely something cool if you want to check it out, if you're in the trains. But I like the tangible, like, hey, here's the thing we're doing, and here's the real world result of it, or how it runs, or how that's stored. Because it's better, like I say, you can only test so much in a lab, and I bring a lot whenever I can of the practical experience of what it's like running these things in production. So this is another one that's going to be very cool. Yeah, trains are still how we move freight here in the United States and outside the US as well, I imagine. Oh, I probably should have mentioned it earlier, but yes, I decided to go to, since I moved away, I started using Nginx Proxy Manager. Let me pull up the proxy hosts. But yes, this is Nginx Proxy Manager works great. So that's my absolute, like, dead simple way. I looked at a couple other ones. This seemed to be the easiest to get going, so I ran with it. That's my solution for replacing HA proxy. But hey, thanks everyone, and I will chat with everyone later. I'll probably do a Saturday or Sunday stream as well. Chains are still, yeah, and I like definitely the least expensive way to get from here to there in a lot of, for large freight stuff. So for sure. Video soon. Yes, definitely video soon. Matt's going to be doing a video on setting up Nginx Proxy Manager. Tip of my tongue there. It's just a dead simple tool to use. I can't believe how, like, it's just easy. So after I use a few different things, I went to it and I'm like, okay, this one is just so simple to use. And I'd recommend it for absolutely. All right, man. Thanks everyone, and take care.